We are back, and this week is Energy Week for Climate Week NYC. We're talking about some of the most interesting innovations and changes and impactful activities that are taking place in the world of energy. And I'm really excited to be joined by Serge from Hydro-Québec, who we've worked with for many, many years, to talk to us, not just about some things that are happening in the future, but some things that are happening now, today. And Serge, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to throw you straight into this and ask, who are Hydro-Québec? What are you doing? What are your plans for now? What are your plans for the future?
Hydro-Québec is the biggest renewable energy generator in North America. We generate power for Quebec, so 4.5 million customers, but we also generate power for our export markets around us. So this is New York State, New England, and this is all renewable hydropower. And so just about 3 years ago, Governor Hochul announced this wonderful project, Champlain Hudson Power Express, that was to deliver power from the Canadian border all the way to New York City, the equivalent of 1 million homes. And because it's renewable power, it will displace fossil fuel generation in the city, the equivalent of 500,000 cars, half the cars in New York City. And so as we stand today, 3 years later, the measure of success, this project is under construction. We're about halfway through, and it's going well. It's on schedule for May 26th. So that's something we're really proud of, and that I think we're going to be making a difference.
One of the things I'm always amazed by is the fact that, there are communities not far from where I am right now who are currently breathing polluted air off the back of this fossil fuel power generation that are going to have hydro power powering their homes shortly, and what amazing impact that's going to have on the lives of their communities. So that's fantastic work. I'd love to ask a bit more about that community front, because this is a humongous piece of construction going from the Canadian border right down through to New York City. I imagine you must work with a lot of different communities, a lot of groups along that line. Could you talk to us a little bit more about how you engage those different communities and how you involve them in this massive project that you're running?
Sure. To your point, Adam, this is 375 miles from one end to the other. So this massive infrastructure of underground HVDC cables. So once it's built, you don't see it. However, as you go through the communities, you're impacting their daily lives with this construction. That's reality of building renewable infrastructure. You impact people's lives. And so community support is really key to getting these massive projects done. And I would say, our community support that we get from all the communities along this route, all the way from the north, the Mohawk community of Ganawagi, Grand Chief Sky there, when she signed a partnership agreement, her community is an equity partner in this project. That and the support of groups all the way down to the city in Astoria, Queens, that got involved, with whom we have programs. I think of the laundry program, where we bring laundry services to disadvantaged communities so that increases attendance. You think of all these initiatives that made a critical difference in achieving this project. So, I would say that changing the way you work, and as a utility, recognizing past wrongs, things evolve. We're in the modern times, and we have to evolve with it. And just bringing value back to communities is definitely an essential part of accomplishing these transformational projects.
And we hear these terms, sort of green economy, green jobs. We hear them a lot. I guess you're right at the front line there. Tell me a bit more about that process of how do you make sure people have the right skills? How do you make sure you've got the right people on site ready to work and ready to make these things happen?
Well, if you look at the challenge of everything that needs to be deployed, we have increasing energy demand. That's both in Canada, but it's in the US as well. We hear the same thing everywhere. It's demand from economic development. You hear about artificial intelligence, data centers, and so on. In Canada, we have battery factories. Those are all essential to achieving the transition. On top of that, you're electrifying everything. So you need to build out a lot of infrastructure. Yes, there is efficiency. It's a key part of it. It's a critical part of it, but you need all the rest. And so having access to that labor is critical. Getting involved in there. With the Champlain Hudson, we have this program. It's a green economy fund. It's a $40 million fund that's there to ensure that, with the help of an advisory board comprised of volunteers throughout the state, that we are spending money, about $2 million a year, through the different jurisdictions in order to create green economy jobs in disadvantaged communities, bring green job training, not just for this project, because the project, in 26 we're done, it's built, but for years afterwards.
Yeah.
So not thinking transactionally, but thinking how do we invest back in society as we're undertaking this massive project of transitioning is a real opportunity when you think of it, to create these jobs, to create the skill sets, and to bring value to people that otherwise wouldn't have had a chance.
And I must say, I've personally met with and seen a number of these different communities that you're talking about there. They've been involved in Climate Week NYC and other things. So the impact is real. And I'm really excited when you turn on that switch. I don't know if you're having a big switch in 2026, but I definitely want to be there when it happens. One of the questions I also want to ask you is, there are a lot of freak weather events happening around the world, and that can have a huge impact on this sort of infrastructure. So whilst these projects are helping take emissions out of the air to help combat climate change, there is a risk that natural disasters might impact your ability to sort of create power. Is that an issue? Is that something that you have to focus on, whether it's water availability or other environmental factors?
You have, I mean, the water question has come up quite a bit, and it's a fair point. When, as a hydro operator, and that's the same for others across the country, that we are very, very cautious in the way we manage our water inflows. And so you have good years, you have bad years, you average out, and you manage conservatively in order to always meet your firm commitments. In our case, firm commitments is our clientele in Quebec and our firm contracts, our long-term contracts with New York. So those are firm commitments, and we'll make sure that we meet these commitments. And then if we have extra, then we'll export more on some of the markets and so on. So this is followed and it's managed very cautiously. But when you look at long-term impact, water precipitation in northern areas of Quebec and the region here will increase with climate change. This is what the science tells us. We're looking at about 6 to 8%. Doesn't mean that climate change is not going to impact us. We have climate events. You guys see them. We see them everywhere. Yeah. Our clients, at the end, it comes back to people in their homes. It's the clients that, I call them the clients, but it's really the people that use electricity. They're the ones that are impacted by this. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we update our infrastructure, that we invest, that we make our grid more robust. We've had increasing outages in Quebec for now the last few years because of these events, these climate events. And so we need to step up there. We're investing, we're ramping up, because you need to meet the expectations of your customers. If not, you're going to lose your customers. We're not going to be able to achieve the transition either.
One of the things I like a lot about this project as well is the ambition of it. I mean, I've seen the cable; it's this thick, and you see, it's like 300 and something miles of it. There's huge ambition here, but it's also showing that you don't need to have a massive river, massive dam near where you live to get the benefits of a hydropower by creating this. I wonder, looking ahead into the future, when you're looking at hydro as part of the energy mix, are there any lessons that you've learned from this experience? And what role do you think hydro does play in that future energy mix, which is just such an important thing for us all?
I think, to me, rethinking how we use renewable energy sources, they're all different. And this is something that's maybe little or not very well understood, but you have intermittent resources, so wind, solar, they're not always on, but they're very valuable. And hydropower, one of the attributes of hydropower is that, especially reservoir hydro, is that you can hold water back, call it a giant battery. It's a long duration storage, and you can dispatch that power when you need it, where it's needed. So when you think of these two sources that we just mentioned and you bundle them together, then you've got a really interesting mix, because you can do so much more with your hydropower. Hydropower should not be base load 24/7, but as we look to the future, as we have more and more intermittent renewables, we should make better use of it. We should use it strategically, where it's needed, when it's needed, to balance out intermittent renewables and have this two-way trade relationships with neighboring jurisdictions. Clean energy is a very precious commodity and should be able to flow from one region to another according to who has it.
Brilliant. And I find it funny that the year that this project was announced by Governor Hochul at the opening ceremony of Climate Week NYC, our strapline was getting it done. And we're always saying this project is a great example of getting it done. Our strapline this year is It's Time, and it sounds like It's Time is the right strapline for this project too, because you're getting everything in place. This has been a really great conversation, and I really appreciate it. And of course, you're going to be there at Climate Week NYC. We can find out so much more about this project and the impact it's going to have. But we could speak all day, but we've run out of time for now. So I just love to say, Serge, it's been great working with you, been great working with Hydro-Québec. Thank you so much for joining us in this Energy Week, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Adam, great talking to you. Thank you for having me.